This season preview is brought to you by Manscaped's brand new Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. This luxurious lather cleanses and nourishes in just one step. Using coconut water, green tea, and aloe, this non-greasy daily formula is naturally hydrating and rich in antioxidants to revitalize the look and feel of your hair. So head on over to manscaped.com and use the promo code SACCITY for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. The new Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner from Manscaped. Take care of hair everywhere.
The Pittsburgh Steelers made the playoffs last year, kind of on a whim. We knew they weren't going to go far, but they made the playoffs. Offensive side of the football, Dylan, I'm going to go with you on the Steelers side. What is the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in 2022?
Yeah, that's easy, Aaron. Come on now. Ground and pound. Najee's the focus of that offense. It don't matter if Pickett, Mr. Baby Hand Pickett, it don't matter if Mr. Mitch Trubisky is at quarterback. It doesn't matter if Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, is at quarterback. They're going to use Najee Harris out of the backfield. They're going to give him to him in a draw play like this. They're going to check down like you saw earlier, and Najee Harris is going to have his hands all over the ball. Now, you're going to have a lot of other weapons. You got a George Pickens there. You got a Claypool, who's Mapletron, which you should know he's from Canada. Deante Johnson, a great receiver out of a wide receiver there as well. They're a solid offense, and I do think that the number one priority to them, ground and pound the football. From that, you'll figure out the rest of your offense.
I know we've had conversations about this before, but I have concerns about Najee's touches, and I don't think he gets as many touches as he had in 2022. He's already now come out and had the Liz Frank sprain. That might be something that lingers. We all know that Liz Frank injuries are not easy to come back from, and we don't know if that can compound into something that could be a Liz Frank tear or whatever. How concerned, maybe scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you with Najee Harris being able to stay healthy, getting the volume that you anticipate for him getting?
Me?
Yes, you.
Yes,
you're
me.
The offense guy.
Yeah, I'm the offense guy. Put my hard hat on. Who's this? Canada? Matt Canada? Yeah. You know, Najee Harris, Liz Franks are tough. We saw it in Corey Grant's career. We saw Travis Etienne deal with it. That's a serious injury. I do think that they are comfortable with who they have behind him on the depth chart. But I think right now I could see a potential spot where they do use him a little bit less. But Mike Tomlin's a guy throughout the course of time. He's got his back. He uses his back. No matter who that back is. It could be LeGarrette Blount. It could be Le'Veon Bell. It could be D'Angelo Williams. Or it could be James Conner. It doesn't matter who it is. He has that one back, and he gives him the football. That's who Najee Harris is. Until he has something catastrophic, which we saw with Bell, next man up, you're going to get the carries. That's how I feel the situation here is in Steelers country. But I do also think right now with that injury that he's dealing with, it could be a long-term effect should he keep getting those bulk of carries he got last season.
AJ, what we obviously think Mitch Trubisky is going to be the starter. Mike Tomlin hasn't announced it yet, but Trubisky played really well in that last preseason game. He got a lot of run. There was nothing he did to give the job away, and Pickett played well, but I don't know if there was enough for Pickett to take the job from Mitch Trubisky. At this point, going into week one, if we assume it's Mitch Trubisky, when do we see Kenny Pickett, or what does Kenny Pickett have to do? What did you see from him in preseason that you think he's going to eventually be the starter, and when does that happen this year?
Oof.
If it happens this year.
I feel like Mitch Trubisky, and I've said this a few times, he's going to have to Mitch it. He's going to have to Mitch it for Kenny Pickett to get in. I think they are going to lock in with Mitchell Trubisky being the guy, being the starter, and giving him a good shot. The thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers was while they were finally excited to spend elsewhere because they haven't had so much money tied up in the quarterback position, they still don't want to just go to a whole new regime. So to have this bridge quarterback who's been in the league, who's still young enough to kind of take some things over, is kind of the smartest move for them. So if I'm looking at a Kenny Pickett, we're not talking about injuries or anything. I'm thinking we're getting into the double-digit weeks, before there's a call for Kenny Pickett, unless they just start 1-4 or something, 1-5, and Kenny Pickett comes in for his second half and just goes bananas or something. But I think Mitch Trubisky's been pretty good for Kenny Pickett while he's been there. I think he actually learned something from Josh Allen that season and is able to be putting it to the rookie. And I think once Kenny Pickett gets the job, there's no going back. And
No.
I don't think there's no need to rush if he's not fully ready. And even though a lot of people in Pittsburgh will tell you he's more ready than they thought he was coming in. So I would say it takes about double digits to get in there unless Mitch Trubisky just proves he is who I thought he was.
Yeah, it's funny to me how each team we kind of talk about is different when they have situations like this. You're talking about a rookie quarterback that came out in preseason and shined. Like Kenny Pickett did everything he could do in the preseason to earn the job. We saw him be on time. We saw him be accurate. We saw him be able to move in the pocket. The baby hands gripped the football fine. He wasn't turning it over. And so you think about it, you're like, okay, you draft him at pick 20 overall. This is supposed to be your franchise guy. He played like that in the preseason. In your mind, you assume that's my franchise guy. That's the guy who's got next. That's the one that we're going to start with when we come into week one. But then you look on the flip side and you see Mitch Trubisky and you're like, well, Mitch Trubisky has been a number one pick, played well, didn't do anything to lose the job, and we were anticipating Kenny Pickett to have to wait. I think this is the toughest position to be in as an organization, and we see how organizations are handling it differently, right? So I look for Kenny Pickett to eventually get this job, but I don't know if it's this year. I really don't know if it's this year. I would assume that at some point in time, if the Pittsburgh Steelers fall out of playoff contention, they would put Kenny Pickett in. But if Mitch Trubisky takes this team and they're going to the playoffs, I don't know how you take him out. I don't. Yeah. It's gonna be difficult to at least push him in that direction. And I think Mitch Trubisky is good enough and has enough experience to kind of hold this job for a while, maybe double-digit weeks, like you said. And that might just be because they're out of playoff contention at that point. Dylan,
that was a worst-case scenario thought on my side with him coming in that way. Sorry to mess up your flow.
Okay. I still can't believe Tomlin has never gone under 500 with the Steelers. That's whack.
And he's a great coach.
He is.
Dylan, what do you see as, like, what are you watching for from this Steelers team? You mentioned Najee, but what specifically are you watching for from this Steelers football team?
Are you talking team in general or just offense?
Team in general.
I'm looking at how the linebacker group works. We mentioned in the preseason or the preseason show about Devon Bush in his final year here, right? What his or potentially his final year. We all assume it's going to be that. You bring in Miles Jack for competition. You bring in another linebacker they signed the other day. You have a lot of pieces on this defense, especially the linebacking crew. I think that's one area you do look at. Which Devon Bush are you getting? Are you getting the guy that was the high motor his rookie year? You getting the guy that was a little bit timid after his injury last year? That's what I'm curious to see. If he can play the way he did his rookie season, and if you can get that team back to where they did and you can tackle well at the linebacking position, I think with this division, you're seeing a lot of run from Baltimore, from Cleveland, among others in this division. If you could tackle well at the linebacker position, you're going to be solid. And that's one area I look at with this Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yeah, you've mentioned Devon Bush a few times on this show about coming back and playing the way he did his rookie year. I don't know if I agree with it. I told you how I felt about the ACLs type stuff, severe knee injuries or severe injuries in general and coming back from that. But I do see your point, and as far as the defense there. But AJ, what is the Steelers' biggest weakness on defense?
Yeah, so it starts to me. I can give you 2 points that I have really pinpointed here. Firstly, I think about that run defense from last year. You know, we always talk about how good the Steelers defense can be, but we're talking about a team that was giving up about 146 yards on the ground per game. You watch Rashad Penny and the Seattle Seahawks go for 160 at 6.1 yards a clip, and that's something that had to get better. That was a part of their downfall. So that's one thing that has to get better, and I know Miles Jack helps that, but if Devon Bush isn't who we're hoping he can come back and be, that's going to be an issue. Then the second thing I really look at is the cornerback depth with a P, not like actual depth. But if any of the guys do die, and they don't have a lot of guys that you feel can slot in and really step up and be prepared to go on a whim, you know that, and that puts a lot more on Minkah Fitzpatrick. That doesn't allow him to do some of the things that they like to do. He was a guy that they used to try to help the run game when they could, and if he's having to play back more to make up for the sluggish cornerbacks because they've had injuries or something of that nature, well, then that's not something you're going to have the freedom to do. So their depth worries me a little bit. I think they need to either make sure they're grooming these guys well during the season, Where I mean, maybe there's somebody out there. I haven't looked at who's still left, but maybe there's a couple people out there that they may be able to add to in this cornerback room just to give them a little bit of help.
Yeah, you mentioned the depth. I'll be honest. I think Pittsburgh still has one of the best front sevens in the NFL. I think the Larry Ogunjobi signing was bigger than people even mentioned. Tyson Alualu, and then you got Cam Hayward and TJ Watt on that front four. Like, that's going to be people that can get to the quarterback, that can stop the run. You add in a Miles Jack to be that outside or that inside linebacker with Devon Bush, hopefully coming back from a knee injury, and then you have Alex Highsmith, who's probably the most inexperienced one there, but he still has talent. And then their back end is not bad, but they lack the depth. You got one of the best safeties in football, Mika Fitzpatrick. Terrell Edmonds is really, really nice. Mm-hmm. But those outside corners I worry about with Joe Hayden. I worry about them because they got the slot corner, and Cam Sutton played really, really well. I think Cam Sutton is good. The rush defense has to be a concern. You gave up the most rush yards last year, averaging almost 5 yards a carry, almost 2,500 yards on the ground given up last year, worse than the NFL. So I think the pieces are there, but the depth is not. They cannot afford injuries. When one guy goes out, it's going to change that entire defense. That is going to be key for them to make sure guys can stay healthy. And then, again, just that back end, solidifying those two outside corner spots in a division where you got to cover T. Higgins. You got to cover Jamar Chase. You got to cover Rashad Bateman. And then, obviously, you got to cover Amari Cooper in Cleveland, and who knows what happens when Deshaun Watson's there. But so they probably get a break outside of Cincinnati with elite receivers. Most teams have them. Not a lot of teams in the North do, at least from coming at you from all angles. But those outside corner plays is probably my biggest concern for the Steelers squad. But when you got a TJ Watt and you can get to the quarterback the way they do, you have a good chance to at least offset some of those problems. So let's take a look at their schedule here. And again, this is a schedule very much similar to the Bengals, the teams that they're playing, divisions that they have to play, and then some outside games. This one to me is a little bit, it's interesting because I don't look at games and say, okay, the Steelers are going to win this game or the Steelers are going to lose this game. I don't know what the Steelers are right now with that quarterback, with this team. I'm not sure what they are. If you had to look at one thing on the schedule, AJ, what stands out to you the most? What area of the schedule you like? This is what I'm looking for, and this is when I'll be able to tell the Steelers what type of team they are.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for Mr. Mitch Trubisky because starting in week 5 all the way down to week 8 before the bye, going to that bye is tough. You're talking about two top teams in the AFC and the NFC, a Miami team that's now loaded. You talk about being worried about those corners. Now you have to go to Miami that's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out there. That's going to hurt. And then even if you get something going coming back to Philly on their defensive side of the ball, and you have quarterback issues, if Mitch Trubisky hasn't been playing up to par by then, and now you have to go see Philly before that bye, look at that spot at week 10 I was talking about. Right after their bye might be the situation if they haven't played well that you start thinking about it. You start hearing that clamoring. So, they come in, they start off hot with Cincinnati. You got 3 winnable games with New England, Cleveland, and New York. But after that, that next stretch right before the bye is really tough, and it's going to tell you a lot about Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, depending on how they decide to go with that right before the bye, and then they come back and play the Saints.
Okay, so let's do it. This is where it's going to head anyways. This is where it's going to go. At the bye week, let's say lost Bengals. Let's say they beat the Patriots. They beat Cleveland because no Deshaun. They beat the Jets. They're 3-1, and they lose 4 straight. They're now 3-5. They go to the bye week. Are they starting Mitch Trubisky or are they starting Kenny Pickett against the Saints? I need to see your faces.
It seems so perfect, right? And it's because that's always a situation. You start to think about the bye week. Now you have an extra week to get them ready. And maybe it's something where they take a serious look at it and then come back to a decision. Maybe they don't go into the bye week and say, Kenny, you're our guy. You're going to step in week 10, be ready. I understand. I'm trying to work it out.
In the week, who do they start?
Nail your hits. It's 54 on the clock.
If they lose all those straight, I think I go to Kenny Pickett.
Dylan?
We drafted him in the first round. You really enjoyed him in the preseason. Do it. Why not?
I'm glad AJ got to that decision because I'm thinking the same thing. If you get waxed in those games, that's when you make the decision. Now, maybe you win that Philly game. You win that Philly game, go into your bye week with a win. Trubisky goes out. But you got to also understand, it's a rivalry game. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati hate the living hell out of each other. That's a Pittsburgh Steeler home game on Sunday Night Football, Week 11. You think that Kenny Pickett's going to be ready for that? Then you go to Indy. Indy's a tough environment for prime time. That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know if I'd start the kid. Well, I think if you start the kid, it's at Atlanta.
So this is where I was going to get you. This is why I wanted you guys to answer that question, is because coming out of the bye week, you got to go against the Saints. That Saints defense is one of the best in football. Then you go against the defending AFC champion, and then you go at Indianapolis. That's not an easy stretch for Kenny Pickett to come in and play.
So 2 of them are prime time too.
I thought the best situation would be against a weak team like Atlanta, and this is why I think Week 13 would be the spot if they're running bad, would be at Atlanta on the road against a team that's not going to have any fans in the stands because they suck. And I'm not trying to knock on Atlanta, but let's be honest, I don't think they're going to be very good this year. You come back home against Baltimore, which is tough, but you're at home, and then on the road against Carolina, who's I know that we think they're going to be better with Baker, but they're probably still one of the weaker teams on your schedule.
False.
So I think that's the spot if he gets in at all. If not, I don't see him getting in. And to be honest, the more I look at it, I don't know that I would put him in.
And I'm with you on all that. But in this scenario where you just watch Mitch Trubisky shit the bed for 4 or 5 straight weeks,
I said
then
lose.
Go into a bye.
I said lose, not necessarily shit the bed.
All right, well, Dylan at least said shit the bed because he was talking about him getting waxed. And I'm thinking if Kenny Pickett is even in the conversation, it wasn't Mitch Trubisky was carrying him that close and it just didn't win out. But then you still think about if he's coming back after that bye, are you still confident that he's going to be able to go up against the best defenses in the league?
It's not about
at that point, maybe you want that switch, you want that energy, maybe you want that influx or infusion of the new guy, the fiery guy who comes in. You've been waiting to see him anyways.
I think this is the risk you run. And it does depend on how Mitch Trubisky plays because you can lose those 4 games against really good teams and Mitch Trubisky can play fine. And then I don't think you're even having the conversation. But say he does play bad. The only risk you really run of bringing in Kenny Pickett is if he looks like total crap. Because then what starts creeping into that locker room? Did you make the right pick? Malik Willis, man, he balled out in preseason. Maybe he should have been the guy. And that doubt, we don't know how Kenny Pickett reacts to that doubt, right? So you never want that to creep in. And I told you, when they have 2 quarterbacks on a team, it's the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't like it. My thought process is if you bring in a rookie and you draft him high, and that's your future guy, put his ass in the game starting week 1 and let him figure it out. Because there's no debate. It's not, is it my team? Is it somebody else's team? If Mitch plays good, does he stay on the field? You don't have to worry about none of that. Put him on the field, say, go earn your job. You have all of this year. You have all of next year. And if it don't work out after that, bye-bye. We'll move on to somebody else.
Yeah.
I just worry about that because you never know how somebody will react to that mentally. So, but I do think that range, 11 to 13 to 15, somewhere in that aspect, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are out of it, I think you go and you find Kenny Pickett conversations start to pick up there. I'm not going to do the prop bets for the Steelers. There's not much prop bets. I did want to talk about one player really quickly. We didn't mention. AJ, talk a little bit about Deante Johnson and what you expect from him this year. Instead of doing an over-under, what do you expect from Deante Johnson with the shifting quarterback, knowing that he was supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver?
Yeah, this is gonna sound stupid. I'm worried he gets planted as the number 1, not because of his talent, not because of his usage. I just think some more exciting people are gonna step up, and now you just have a safety in a Deante Johnson who can be a very good 1B, and it may not last a lot. It may last in pockets. He may have those games. This wide receiver group is really good, is the thing. Deante Johnson has shown what he can do for years in and years out. We are starting to see the talent that George Pickens has when he's healthy, and we're expecting it to keep going up. And Claypool has been immature, right? Claypool has not been what we expected him to be from that first couple stints of exciting and for whatever 3 or 4 game stretch. But they keep talking about his play and how it keeps improving week in and week out. He's still talented. It just has not come to fruition. So looking at these guys, I know Deante Johnson is coming in there as the number 1. But if George Pickens can step up to what we think he's going to be, I think he starts to get a lot more looks. I think that Claypool is going to try to make himself a solid option in that offense. You look around the league, they're looking for these 3 top wide receivers that can get the ball at any point in time. And I do believe in Pittsburgh, they feel they have 3 of them. And that may spread the ball out a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
That's fair.
I think everybody's
exactly
jumping on the
what I was
George Pickens hype train, and I think that's great and all. But I think he's
Mitch-
so far behind Deante Johnson right now. It's not funny. And Claypool has never touched Deante Johnson, and they just paid Deante Johnson. I don't think there's any debate on who the number one is there, but I do think there's a debate on who the number two is.
Mitch Trubisky made Taylor Gabriel look good.
Well, first of all, Deante Johnson
Yeah,
actually fits the skill set that I think benefits those guys the most because he's the one who runs the routes. George Pickens and those guys are big play guys. Chase Claypool's a big play guy. I think that Deante Johnson fits well in any offense, but
Yeah.
I would be looking for George Pickens to supplant Chase Claypool. I think Chase Claypool's on his way out in Pittsburgh. I think this is his last season, and I think you'll see the writing on the wall this year. He'll play a part because they need three guys, but I do think that you'll see George Pickens on the field a lot more, and Chase Claypool will start to lose snaps to a very big and physical receiver that's just like Claypool, but with a different attitude and work ethic. And I think that's what you'll see that'll be different for the Steelers offense, at least. We didn't do record predictions. I will give you my record prediction first. Let me get my
Handy dandy.
you know what it is. Handy dandy paper. I'll be honest. I don't have them winning many games. Mike Tomlin falls under 500, and I told you this team is tricking me because I don't really know if I believe it in my soul. I have them going 6-11, and I don't
You
like
kept
it.
that, huh?
I did. I'm keeping it, and I don't love it.
Wow. It's okay. Hey,
Something
2
about the
days in a row?
quarterback play bothers me. Not Mitch, just not sure, and it bothers me that I'm picking 6-11, but it bothers me to go over that many games in that division when I think 2 or 3 teams are better than them.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I could even if I didn't put Tomlin over 500, I couldn't go as low as 6. Like that just hurts my soul. I have Tomlin doing it again, 15 years in a row, over 500. I have him at 9-8. I think they're going to eke out some games. I do. And if Kenny Pickett even gets in there later in the season, he'll get himself 2.
I don't knock you. Like, it's easy to say 9-8 and be like, yeah, I'm good because I know Tomlin's going to do it, and he probably will. But that streak will end sometime.
Yes,
That streak will end sometime.
They thought it was going to end last year, and I was like, if he made it happen with that team and take them to the playoffs, he's Popovich,
at the end
bro.
of the day, they still had Big Ben, and I know he didn't play well, but that was a veteran quarterback who's won big games and is a good leader. I don't know that they have that anymore, especially on the offensive side of the
football.
You
don't know? Nah, they don't, bruh. They don't.
Okay, bruh. So what is your record, Dylan?
I said 8-9.
8-9. Okay.
Oh, sorry. We didn't hear you talking over people.
Yeah, I know. Ain't nobody
We didn't hear you waiting for your cue.
So power rankings here. I'll be honest. Obviously, I have them lowest. AJ, you had them at 20. Dylan, you had them at 18. I'm pretty sure I have them at 24. And I'm going to lock them in at 24, but only because I know our 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 are already taken. I'm pretty sure those are taken. So I will lock them in at 24. And if we need to adjust it, we will. But we're going to lock in the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 24 at our preseason power rankings.